Hello there, this is CP8017, and today I'm going to be looking at some games that came out last month, May 2024. We actually had a very good selection this time. I will be covering about 20 games today, actually, so it's quite impressive for a very good month. So we've got listed here Songs of Conquest, SKALD against the Black Priory, Nancy Drew, Cyber Manhunt 2, New World, Arctic Eggs, Classic Marathon, Cluckmech Oasis, and 9 Souls. So, let's get into the first one, shall we? So, first one up is Songs of Conquest by Lava Potion. So, it released after 2 years in early access. It's a 4X hex-based game based on the early 90s classics like Heroes of Might and Magic. It's got 4 different factions and local or online multiplayer, and a number of different maps and campaigns, and it quickly sold 500,000 copies. Now, I believe that there's been some DLC and expansions announced for. I think the first one will be coming up later this year, and the major expansion coming out next year, but I'd have to check. So, let's get to the trailer. Yes, so that one's available for Windows and Mac. There's console releases planned, but at the moment they're only planned. So this one is $34.99 US, and minimum system requirements are Windows 7, an Intel i5 or an AMD Ryzen 5 CPU, 8GB of RAM, an integrated GPU that supports DirectX 10, and 4GB of free space. So it's it's not too bad. I'd say most computers would be able to run it. On the Mac side, Mac OS 10.13 High Sierra, Intel 2.6 GHz processor or an Apple M series, 8GB of RAM, Apple M1 or AMD Radeon Pro 2GB GPU, and 4GB of free space. So on the Mac side, it's a little bit more demanding, but any M series Mac, any Mac with a dedicated GPU will be able to run it. So, next one. So, Nancy Drew, A Mystery of the Seven Keys by Her Interactive Incorporated. Now, this one's a bit different. It's not actually on Steam or the Mac App Store. It's being sold through Her Interactive, but so this is actually the 34th entry in the series, which surprised me. I mean, the series started in the game series started in 1999, so that's a lot of games. In it, you explore the city of Prague in the Czech Republic, I believe, in either the classic point-and-click mode or a free roam mode. You solve various puzzles, question different suspects, and outwit a gang of criminals. It's actually received very very positive reviews on the website, and I thought it might have been a bit biased towards it, but I checked a few other games there, and put it sorry, if they were censoring reviews or something like that, they were doing a pretty bad job. So let's have a look at the trailer.
Rated E10 for ages 10 and up.
Here in the beautiful city of Prague, there are mysteries so steeped in history, they should be preserved for all to remember. But there are those who would use the technology of this modern world to manipulate the powers of the past for their own dark designs.
Black market chatter has been talking about an upcoming big score in a matter of days.
And there is only one who can stop them.
Are you Nancy Drew?
I am.
Have a seat. I've been waiting for you.
In your letter, you explained what was stolen.
It was my mother's necklace.
That has now been replaced with fake gems.
It has gone too far.
What's this?
Suspects. You will reach out to them and find out who stole the gems.
What is this place? A card and footprints. Who's there?
The necklace, it is the same as the first time I saw it.
The jewels belong to the people.
You must have heard about the gem forgeries in Prague.
Not the usual tourist question.
I'm not the usual tourist. If I'm gonna snoop, I'd better be quick. This mark, it could be part of an ancient riddle.
Alchemists were very clever.
We should get out of here.
It's a good thing I have a bobby pin on me. I found this iron key.
In our streets, there are secrets to unlock, lurking in every corner.
I wonder if I'm looking in the wrong place.
Traditions are not changed easily. Trust no one.
I have my work cut out for me.
You can never be too careful on the internet these days.
Getting closer.
It is the puppet of death.
The real monsters in Prague don't always look it.
Sometimes the past
Something's following me.
should remain in the past.
Yes, it's the first time I've actually covered a Nancy Drew game here. I've heard of the series, of course, but yes. So anyway, platforms: Windows and Mac, $32 US. Minimum system requirements are Windows 10 64-bit and Intel i3, and I would say a fourth generation series, or an AMD FX 6300. 6300, sorry, 6 gigabytes of RAM, an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 750 Ti, or an AMD Radeon R7 370, and 20 gigabytes of free space. So it's a decent sized little game. On the Mac side, macOS 10.15 Catalina, an Intel Core i5 dual core, or an Apple M1, 6 gigabytes of RAM, an AMD Radeon Pro 460, or a Apple M1 again, and 20 gigabytes of free space. So I'd say it's a bit more demanding than the last game, but it's really, I'd say the space would be the main problem, since the fourth generation processors that'd be about 8-9 years at this point. It's old at this point, so yeah, it shouldn't really be much of a problem. Now, Stafford Case, a supernatural mystery adventure by Team Tetrapod. Now, this is a bit of an interesting one. It came out in April 2023, but last month it received a pretty major update, adding multiple languages including English and Mac support. The game was originally released in Korean. So this is set in 1960s London, and as the newest member of the Manhunt Affairs Department, find clues, arrange them, and discover the contradictions within each case with the assistance of supernatural abilities of your fellow detectives. So let's have a look. Yeah, so that was a safer case, available for Windows and Mac, $11.99 US, but you're able to play the first two cases for free. Now, for the streamers like myself, they have mentioned that you're free to stream the first two cases as well. So, alright, system requirements: Windows 10 64-bit, Intel Core i3 2 GHz processor, 4 GB of RAM. DirectX 11 capable GPU, and 6 GB of free space. So that's really not too bad. On the Mac side, macOS 10.13 High Sierra, Intel Core i5 1.4 GHz processor, or Apple M1, 4 GB of RAM, Intel HD Graphics 5000 or Apple M1 GPU, and 3 GB of free space. And so it's a bit smaller on Mac for some reason, not sure why. So, next up, Duck Detective: The Secret Salami by Happily Broccoli Games. This one, I actually nearly thought to include it on the list. It's a bit of a last-minute addition. It's actually got full voice acting. It's about 2 to 3 hours long. A detective game where you play as a duck, and you question different witnesses, interrogate suspects, and piece together clues to discover the secret behind the salami conspiracy that's going on. And you also have a crack button there, because that's the most important thing.
I'm here to investigate a case. The Salami Bandit, a nefarious lunch thief tormenting a dingy call center. Everyone has a motive, or a secret. But I'm a master of deductions, and the early bird always catches the criminal. This case ain't gonna be a walk in the pond.
I saw an awful lot of high-grade salami in Frederson's bag.
The trail of crumbs must lead to the truth.
Frederson needs to be fired!
I'm getting framed! Duck Detective, the secret salami.
Okay. So it's available on a few different platforms: Windows, Mac, Linux, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. And I saw the Switch mentioned on there as well in the trailer. I didn't actually see it when I was searching for it, but I'll go by what the trailer says. So it's $9.99 US. System requirements: Windows 7, 10 or 11, 64-bit, or Ubuntu 18.04 or CentOS 7. CPU, either x86 or x64 with SSE2 support, 1GB of RAM, and a DirectX or DirectX 10 or later compatible, or a Falcon compatible GPU, which would be quite a lot of them at this point, if not all, and 300 megabytes for each space. Basically, if you're watching this video, you're able to run it. On the Mac side, macOS 10.13, Nicera, an Apple Silicon CPU or x86 with SSE2 support. That's an instruction set, it's been around for a little while. 1GB of RAM. A metal capable Intel Iris or AMD GPU, which is basically all of them going back to about 2014, and 300 megabytes for free space. Okay, next up, Warbits Plus by Risky Lab Inc. So this one it's already released on mobile, but it's still but the Mac and Windows version are still under development. So this is an updated version of the original 2016 mobile title Warbits. It will have cross-platform multiplayer, map editor, campaign mode, and different challenges. It received very good reviews back in the day. I'd say it's a classic turn-based strategy title. Ideal if you're looking for something a bit old school, I'd say. Yeah, something like Advance Wars, but on your phone. So, alright, trailer. Okay, sorry, they're trying to enter it properly there. Sorry. Okay, so it's not out for Windows Mac yet, but it is available for iOS and Android. The PC releases are for later this year, I believe. It's on the mobile side, it's $4.79. Price might be different on again the PC side. I'm not sure. System requirements: Windows Vista 7, 8, 10 or 11, 1.7 GHz CPU, 1GB of RAM, and Intel HD Graphics 3000, and 600 megabytes of space. And on the Mac side, macOS 10.7 Lion, Intel 1.7 GHz processor, 1GB RAM, OpenGL 2.1, and 600 megabytes of free space. Sorry, a little bit of a cold. So it should work on. It's one of those. Once again, if you're able to watch this video, you're able to play it on the system. So, the Werecleaner by Howling Hugs. So this is a bit of a stealth comedy game. You've probably seen streamers playing it this month or last month. You clean up various normal messes, and when you've got I saw rituals and people being eaten and some fairly horrific scenes in a bathroom, but I assume they're fairly normal for novice. And you hopefully try not to eat any of the employees or get caught by anyone. There's also a number of collectible items hidden throughout. Now, the Mac and Android versions, they're currently under development, but they should be coming out later on. So, that trailer.
Meet Kyle. He's the best darn janitor at Howlin' Hugs. But Kyle has a secret. And he still has a job to do. Clean messes! Avoid coworkers! And if you can't control your urges, fix your mistakes! Above all, don't get caught.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a student project, I believe. So it's currently available for Windows and iOS. And like I said, Mac and Android versions are being worked on. This one's a freebie, actually. So, Windows system requirements: Windows 10, Intel Core i5 or an AMD Ryzen 5 processor, 8GB of RAM, and integrated GPU or 2GB of free space. Mac specs have yet to be announced, but they're probably quite similar to Windows side. So, Cluckmech Oasis by Blacklight. This is tower defense roguelike, top-down action. You play as the mighty battle chicken, being serious, or a few other different characters. You collect different bits of strange machinery. You fight against different plant-based enemies and build various facilities and towers across a variety of maps. It's done really quite well. So, trailer. Yes, so that one's on Windows and Mac, $9.99 US. That one's by a Chinese developer, but it is in English as well. System requirements: Windows 7, dual-core processor, 2GB of RAM, 1GB GPU, and 1GB free space. Mac side: Mac OS 11, Big Sur, an Intel Core i3 or an Apple M1, 8GB of RAM, 2GB for the GPU, and 1GB of free space. So it's really not too bad. I'd say honestly, 2017 or newer on the Mac side, on the Windows side, probably even lower. So, Cyber Manhunt 2, A New World by Alba Studio. This one recently launched into early access. It plays a AI acting on behalf of the Tyson Corporation and explore a virtual world full of hacking and counter-hacking, intelligence gathering, and intrigue set across a variety of characters. It's gotten a bit of attention from various streamers, so let's have a look.
Think about your little sister.
Let it end.
I declare Sister Maria job guilty. You did all of this?
Yes, a bit of a cyberpunk heavy world. It looks quite interesting, actually. So, available on Windows and Mac, $9.99 US. Minimum system requirements are Windows 7, 8 or 10. Intel Core i3 3220, which is a fairly old one, I'd say about 10 years old at this point. 8GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GT 610, and 5GB of free space. In short, the main problem would probably be the free space. On the Mac side, Mac OS 10.8 Mountain Lion, Intel Core i3 3220, 8GB of RAM, Intel Iris graphics, and 5GB of free space. So again, on the Mac side, really not too bad. I think the Iris was 2015, 2016ish. So next one, Farm Together 2 by Milkstone Studios. This one's also another early access one, expected to be about 9 to 12 months. And it's the sequel to the 2018 title. You can grow crops or raise animals on your farm, either by yourself or with a friend. Sell it, grow, buy upgrades and decorations, and show off your tractor and avatar. Yes, kind of think of it like no, it scares me that really popular farming game, but in 3D. Anyway, I'll shut up. Alright, so that was that one. Available for Windows and Mac. $19.99 US. System requirements Windows 7, 64-bit, dual core CPU, 4GB of RAM, DirectX 10 capable GPU, and 2GB of free space. So it's really not too bad. macOS 10.13 or Sierra, and Intel or Apple CPU, 4GB of RAM, Metal capable GPU, and 2GB of free space. So you really shouldn't have much trouble running it. Next up, Arctic Eggs by the Water Museum. This is probably the other one you saw streamers playing last month. It's a very odd sci-fi cooking game set in Antarctica, where you cook your illegal eggs and other things. There's bullets there in one of the screenshots being cooked. I wouldn't suggest that. For scientists and guards with help of a trusty frying pan controlled by, physics. Yeah. So. Yes, it's an old one, to put it mildly. So that one's on Windows, Mac and Linux, $9.99 US. System requirements, Windows 7 or Ubuntu 19.04. Intel Core i5 3470. Again, it's an older one, so you probably be about 10 years old at this point. 4GB of RAM. NVIDIA GeForce GT 1030 and 1GB free space. On the Mac side, it's pretty similar. macOS 10.15 Gasolina, Intel Core i5 3470, 4GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GT 1030 and 1GB free space. So yeah, you should. It's one of those. If you're able to watch this video, you're able to run it. 9 Souls by Red Candle Games. This is a interesting one. It's a entirely hand-drawn 2D platformer, introduced focusing on exploring settings based on Eastern fantasy that were once inhabited by ancient aliens and are currently ruled by the 9 Souls, who you're fighting against. It's got very fluid combat, and it's been described by the developers as kind of a tower punk. It's done quite well for itself. It came out late in May, I believe, the 26th or so. Yes, so that one's on Windows and Mac, $29.99 US. System requirements: Windows 10 64-bit, an AMD Athlon X4 or an Intel Core i5 4460, 8GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 950 or an AMD R7 360, and 15GB free space. So on the Windows side, the main problem is probably the space. On the Mac side, it's Apple Silicon only, I believe. So Mac OS 10.13 High Sierra, Apple M1 for CPU and GPU, 8GB of RAM, and 15GB free space. Very fluid platformer. SKALD Against the Black Priory by High North Studios AS. This one, I believe it's been in development for over 3 years. Heavily inspired by the old 8-bit computer RPGs. As a party-based RPG set in the world of Framework, there's 12 different classes to choose from, and a number of allies and monsters to encounter. It's a very solid throwback. It's received quite a lot of praise and attention. So, let's have a look.
Legacies of old, about to be awakened.
Yes, a very pretty. It depends on if the 8-bit style is your kind of thing, but I think it's quite pretty. Right, Windows and Mac platforms, $14.99 US. System requirements: Windows 10 and Intel i5 or AMD equivalent for CPU, which isn't too bad. 4GB of RAM, Intel Iris or AMD Vega equivalent, which is again not really a problem, and 500 megabytes for each space. On the Mac side, Mac OS 14 Monterey, Apple M1 CPU and GPU, 8 gigabytes of RAM and 500 megabytes for each space. I mean, you shouldn't have any trouble running it. Right, Classic Marathon by LF1 developers. Okay, so this was Marathon way back in 1994. A very impressive science fiction first-person shooter that received a huge amount of praise back in the day. It introduced many different features such as voice chat had about a 50-meter radius. It was through Ethernet. So the Marathon 2 was open sourced in 1999, and it was continually updated with the community. And the first game of the trilogy came out on Steam last month. Well, it's been available from the LF1 website for about 20 years or even more, I suppose. So it's very retro, but it's a solid one. So, right. Now, there isn't an official trailer, so I'm doing an unofficial one. Finish it now because the trailer goes for about 4 minutes. So the trailer there is mostly just gameplay. So available on Windows, Mac and Linux, and it's free. So Marathon's basically the spiritual predecessor to Halo. Would be the best way to describe it. It originally came out on Mac in, like I said, 1994. That's the first of 3 games in the series. So, system requirements. I'll quickly go over them because they're really quite low. Windows 10 64-bit CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, 100 megabytes for each space. Basically any graphics card. On the Mac side, Mac OS 10.13 High Sierra, M1 or Intel Core M CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, 100 megabytes for each space. You won't have any troubles running it. 3 stars, the Ur-Quan Masters by Pistol Shrimp. So this was originally Star Control 2 released back in 1992, and for the 3DO in 1994, which is where we had all the charming voice lines from, and was open sourced in 2002. It's a space opera, space sim, space adventure title. It's inspired many space titles. Mass Effect 2, No Man's Sky. If it's if it's come out fairly recently, it's probably been inspired in some way by Star Control 2. So they had to rename because of a lawsuit with another company. It's a bit involved, but it's a bit involved. I won't go into it. And now there has been a sequel that's been funded on Kickstarter, and there should be more information about that coming up soon. So, trailer. It's a classic. It's a classic. Available on Windows, Mac. It's free. The system requirements: Windows XP or later, and Intel Pentium or later. RAM was probably in the megabytes, to be honest. Integrated GPU, 150 megabytes per space. Mac side, Mac OS 10.12 Sierra. Apple M1 or a Intel CPU. RAM, again, not really worth throwing about. Integrated GPU, 150 megabytes per space. The hard part would probably be running Sierra, but that was probably about 6 years ago now. So, Cookard by Panacea Game Dev. This is a bit of a card-based cooking game. You make different dishes by combining ingredient and utensil/equipment cards and saving them to customers before they get bored or tired and leave. You unlock new cards and recipes either through the in-game store or by completing requests. It's basically I should have rehearsed this. If you remember that little indie card game that was massively popular, it's basically a cooking version of that. So, trailer. Yes, so that one's on Windows and Mac. It's free again. System requirements: Windows 7, 8 or 10, dual core 2 GHz CPU, 2 GB of RAM, 100 megabytes per space. It's not too bad. I mean, it's one of those. If you ever just watch this video, you're able to play it. Same with the Mac side: Mac OS 10.14 Mojave, 2 GB of RAM, 100 megabytes per space. You won't have any trouble running it. Savant Ascent Remix by D-Pad Studio. So this is the remake of the original 2013 version. This one released in September 2023 and received a Mac version in May. There was a bit of a beta period where they were making sure it was working. You jump between two continually rising platforms as you ascend a robot-filled tower. Mitch wants to shoot you because that's what robots and towers do. And you choose between a few different modes, such as classic and survival. It's done fairly well on Steam, gotten pretty good reviews. So. Yeah, so that one's on Windows and Mac at $9.99. System requirements: Windows 10 dual-core CPU, 1GB RAM, DirectX 10 capable GPU, and 300 megawatts free space. On the Mac side, OS isn't mentioned, but anything relatively modern, I'd say Apple or Intel CPU, 1GB RAM, 2GB free space. Now, I mentioned that there was a bit of mention that I believe that a fairly known artist had a role to play with making that series. I think it might have been the sound composer. I'm not sure. I'd have to check. Honourable mentions read nearly at the end. Thriving City song by White Star Studio. This one left early access after 13 months. It's a historical city builder / manager set in 1960s China during the Song Dynasty. You have to balance between various events such as invasions, crime, unrest. Many Airways Prologue by CCC Games. And RCS, you act as a traffic controller, directing aircraft to take off and land, avoid restricted areas, and not crash into each other. And in a number of different airports. There's a full release plan for the third quarter of this year. Little Known Galaxy by Carbon and K. It's a single player space RPG. Got quite a bit of exploration, farming, crafting, ship customization, a few aliens. It's a take on the the casual farmer type of game. Now, there's a few more honourable mentions, but these ones are a bit darker. So, if you're squeamish or if you have any issues that might be brought up by that kind of thing, Foile Fatale by Ken Midoko. Now this one's Japanese or Chinese only currently. It's a psycho horror / love visual novel. You play as a girl that meets some interesting new boys at a high school. I think that'd be the best way to describe it there. Interesting, but I wouldn't want to meet them myself. And Sleep, Atto 1 by Black Hole Games. That one is a 2D point-and-click horror game set in northeast Brazil. Use your flashlight to try to fend off monsters, although some of them do react differently to it, while collecting clues and trying to solve puzzles to work out what the heck is going on. So that's it for this month. Well, that's it for last month's games, I should say. There's a few coming up next month, and this month, I should say, for June. So what I'll do, I'll finish here, and I'll see you then. Alright, thank you.